Okay, welcome to the first Modern Moron of the new year. Let's call it a mediocre modern moron, because there's only one direction to go after this episode, and that is upward. First of all, I'm by myself, so there's strike one. By the time you get this, the impeachment trial in the Senate may be over, and I think we both know the outcome there, and we might be at war with Iran. So, what do? I briefly go over that, and then I have two issues that I would like to see you take care of this coming year. I have a proposal for gun violence in this country, and I also have an issue with higher education in this country, in terms of getting an education versus getting a diploma. You obviously need the first, and if you have it, you shouldn't need the second. Finally, I wrap up by sharing with you my experience in the justice system as I report for jury duty and actually get assigned to a criminal case. One of the crimes would have been me serving on the jury. Happy New Year from the Modern Moron, and thank you for listening. Happy New Year. Pleased to welcome my favorite guest, my most reliable guest, me. Solo today, folks. How are you? There's a few things I want to go over, and right now I'm trying to stay calm, but I'm on Target.com, and all I can say is, what the f***? I just want to get some floor cleaner. I just want to get some lemon-scented fucking floor cleaner. I've got three options in front of me. One of them says, add to cart. Of course, that's what we're used to. The other one says, choose options. And another one says, add for pickup. So I click on the one that says, choose options. And it says, you can pick it up here at the store. That's not an option. If you say click for options and there's only one option, then that's not an option. Pick it up at the store. That's it. That's the only option. Oh, I'm so fucking furious over lemon-scented pine cleaner. Okay.
I'm stupid.
Yes, I just said lemon-scented pine cleaner. What a fucking idiot. Okay, I'm closing this tab because I can't deal with it anymore. I apologize for that. Okay, it's the first episode of the Modern Moron for 2020. We've got that drone strike in Iran, right? So what is the biggest impact of the drone strike in Iran that killed one of its highest-ranking generals? For Trump, I think it means what we're not talking about, which is impeachment. Not talking about impeachment anymore. What? Impeachment what? We got bigger fish to fry now. We're at war with Iran. No, we're not. Yes, we are. No, we're not. Of course, there are obviously other implications, and the media must and has to cover this military action. But don't think that Trump doesn't see the value in throwing everyone off the impeachment trail. He is the Houdini of litigation.
I'm very highly educated.
Okay, calm down. I'm really worked up. It's too early in 2020 to get this worked up. Don't you agree? Breathe. Okay, here's a couple of things that I would like to see taken care of in 2020. Gun control. I have the solution to gun control, and here it is. And ladies, I'm sorry, but y'all need to step up to the plate on this. Bottom line, women need to carry guns. All women carry guns, period. I know you don't want to, but, you know, with great power comes great responsibility. And it should be the responsibility of women to carry guns. Because you know who doesn't go into shopping malls and start shooting? You know who doesn't go to schools or movie theaters and start shooting? Women. Women don't. As a matter of fact, the only people that do are white guys. White males are idiots, and they shouldn't have guns. But you give a gun to every woman, packing heat, you take care of the gun situation, because women don't shoot guns unless they absolutely have to.
Don't mess with me.
I saw within the last 6 months or so a video of a woman, I believe she was working at a fast food restaurant, and there was a customer that it was a guy, obviously, and he got so pissed off, he came back into the kitchen, and she pulled a gun.
God damn it!
Did she shoot him? No. Did he get his ass out of the kitchen? Yes. Women need to carry guns. They're the only ones that can carry them responsibly. So if you're Jewish and a girl goes to her bat mitzvah, or if she's Catholic and goes to her confirmation, guess what? Part of that, around that age, you need to start getting trained on gun safety and how to handle a gun. And then when you turn 16 or 18, you are issued a firearm and you are a peacekeeper.
Who's ready to die, bitches?
I think that's a great idea. Thank you. Thank you. When murders and violent crimes plummet because of my idea, you can thank me. You're welcome. Education. Education versus diplomas. I think that's a big, big deal. I'd like to talk about it with someone besides myself, even though I consider myself a good listener. You can get an education in virtually any subject, a complete education. You can listen to lectures by Harvard professors or Stanford professors. You can get the education for whatever subject you want. You can go to YouTube. You can go all kinds of places and find those resources. You can get the education. The diploma, that's just a piece of paper. Why have we valued it so much? Why is a diploma from a UC system more valuable than one from the state college system? That's out in California. I don't know if it's different in your state, but it's ridiculous. We should have some sort of virtual resume that if you have the body of knowledge and you could take a test, then you've got your virtual diploma for that body of knowledge. It's a bunch of bullshit that parents are shelling out hundreds of thousands of dollars for a piece of paper. You can get your education at home online if you have the focus and the drive.
Yeah, that's expensive.
Wow, I'm really ranting today. See, I need someone else to sort of mellow me down. You know what I'm saying? So we've covered gun control. We've covered education versus diplomas. We need to change the infrastructure of gaining your virtual resume, or I think it's called a virtual badge in California, that you can start building adding to your badges for education, and it's virtual. You know, the classes you take build up to a degree. There should just be standardized tests that you can take online or otherwise to get your credentials. Doesn't need to be a piece of paper from some school. They're ripping us off.
Unplug his mic, please.
Yeah. I've got some Netflix recommendations for you. And they're not necessarily stuff that you want to watch, but the stuff that you should watch. Either it's compelling in some way. Now, one of them is a documentary called Don't F with Cats. Or you can just do Don't F with Cats. It is a 3-part documentary. The trailer says, when it comes to the internet, there's one thing you don't do. You don't F with cats on the internet, in videos, and so forth. And I think the producers of this documentary did a good job in avoiding the uncomfortable visuals that are probably keeping people from watching this. There's only one scene where you see this kid who they follow, and he does something, terrible. And it's more about the people online that track him down. As I'm sure you know, people who are violent to animals in their youth is a precursor to much more violent crimes, homicides, serial killers, and so forth. And this documentary is very compelling. I thought it was really well done. I would highly recommend Don't F with Cats. So that's about it for this episode. Except for one other thing. I had jury duty this week. And I thought I'd get out of it and be out of there by noon. And nope, I was assigned to a case, a criminal case of domestic violence. And oh my God, the gaggle of people that I was mixed up in was pretty fascinating. I went in, and then they randomly chose 22 people. I was one of the 22. And then they started weeding those down. And then I became juror number 15. So I was definitely going to have to sit in on the case as an alternate at that point. Story of my life. Not in the starting lineup, but I'm an alternate. And then they started, the judge was talking to us about being objective. And I looked over at this guy who was in the room, and right behind him was a sheriff, an additional bailiff, in addition to the regular bailiff. And this guy was 6'7", 6'8". And I'm thinking, why do we need such a big bastard standing behind the accused? Maybe because he's violent. I don't know. So the judge starts talking to us about being objective and not taking into consideration any other facts before just this incident, even though the has been had 2 domestic violence assault charges against him in 2009 and in 2016. But I'm not supposed to think about that. It's like past behavior is a good predictor of future behavior. And this guy's got tattoos on his neck, so I'm judging him for that. I'm judging him for his prior assault charges. And I'm thinking, I can't be on this jury. I'm not objective. I am biased already. I'm prejudiced against this guy. He's not going to get a fair deal from me. So I'm sitting there listening to the judge tell us, I'm going to give you very specific instructions on being objective about what's happened and what the facts of this case. And some people he starts talking to some people individually. In fact, he talked to each person individually. He got to the person next to me. She was young, probably in her 20s. She was rather heavy, and she raised her hand and said she had been a victim of domestic violence. And in several cases, the judge had asked, I don't want to pry too far personally, but just like to get to know a couple of things to know where you're coming from. And so he asked her if she could talk about it a little bit, and she said yes, and that she was with a guy that was supposedly her boyfriend at the time, and he attacked her and had to be pulled off of her in the attack. And she started crying just describing it. And I found myself tearing up. I'm tearing up like, oh, this poor girl gets attacked. People have to pull the guy off of her. What a horrific experience. Now I'm thinking, there's no way I can be in this jury. He excused her, by the way. And there was a number of other people that had incidents where they knew a friend or family member who had been involved in domestic violence and asked them, would you be able to set that all aside and be objective in this case? And most of them said, yes, I would have no problem doing that. Knowing that both attorneys are going to deliberate later over whether or not to keep these jurors. And they also had a peremptory vote or a peremptory decision of not having someone on the jury without having to give any cause or any reason for kicking them off the jury. So after this woman was let go, they gave us a break, and I went up to the bailiff and I said, I found myself getting emotional at her story. Should I bring that to the judge's attention? He said, yeah, go ahead and write down what you just told me on the excuse page to be excused from duty. So I write it down. And when they go to let us back in, the bailiff said, okay, I'm going to read off the following people with your excuses. So-and-so, not excused. So-and-so, John Doe, not excused. My name, not excused. And a couple were excused, so I didn't get off the hook then. So I go back in. Now I'm sitting one more closer to being in the jury. And the judge starts talking to a gentleman, a young kid. He's a student, and he talks about his views on domestic violence. Would he be objective? And the kid says,
well, I usually go by the theory that a guy is guilty until proven innocent.
And the judge says, well, this is a good time maybe just to take a moment to go over our legal system, in that we believe the exact opposite of that a person is innocent until proven guilty. So you see, you assume they're innocent, you see the facts, and then they have to be proven guilty. Does that make sense to you?
No, I think they're pretty much, that's just the way I look at it, is that they're guilty until they can prove that they're not guilty.
And the judge said, well, you see that we can't have that. So I'm asking you, would you be able to follow my instructions and look for proof beyond a reasonable doubt that they were guilty?
No, I would think that they're guilty.
And at this point, most of the people in the room are laughing because this guy just can't change his thought process. He looks at both the attorneys. They both say stipulate, which apparently means get him out of here. And the judge and both attorneys agreed that this kid would be excused. And he walked out sort of mumbling to himself as he walks out of the courtroom.
But that's the way I think.
So finally, I raise my hand and I say, I don't feel like I'm objective. I feel like I would side with the victim. And the defense attorney said, just by the fact that you called the other attorney's client a victim is sort of prejudiced. These are all allegations at this point. The alleged victim and the alleged perpetrator. So I would ask you to set that aside. And then they started talking about common sense, using common sense. Raised my hand again. I said, I find that sometimes common sense isn't so common. And I'm telling you for the second time, I don't trust myself in terms of being objective. I would be doing a disservice to this guy by being on the jury. I'm trying to let this attorney know, don't pick me or get me out of there because I'm hanging that dude by his neck. That's probably not an option, but with the priors, no way. I'm already predetermined this, and I'm trying to let them know. So, by the third time, I raise my hand, yes, Mr. What is it now? I'm just telling you, giving you one last opportunity to say, get this guy out of here. And so then they said, all right, we've talked to everybody. We've asked you all your questions. The defense attorney has asked his question. The prosecuting attorney has interviewed to his satisfaction. We're now going to excuse you from the courtroom, and we'll call you back in to see if any additional people have been excused.
Oh, getting personal, eh?
So they've got the 15 or 20 of us on the jury and alternates, and then another 20 or 30 who have had to just sit there all day listening to this, thinking that they might get called up. So we sit out for about a half an hour, and they call us back in, and guess what? I was excused. I was excused along with a college professor that they apparently didn't want. There was also a guy that worked for the Department of Justice who was yes, sir, no, ma'am, yes, sir, no, sir. He had gone through a police academy or a police officer of police academy of some kind, and did not get hired. And so, to no surprise, the defense attorney kicked him out. He knew he was going to get kicked. Also, there was a young lady that was a prison guard. She was wearing what I would call very comfortable attire. She looked like she enjoyed flannel, particularly plaid, short haircut.
I like to be comfortable.
And the place she chose to hang her sunglasses was around the back of her neck.
I could also kick your ass.
Maybe you see baseball players do this, but just her general demeanor was she was pretty tough. And she knew as well that she was going to get dismissed from the case. So part of me wanted to stay on the jury just out of curiosity, but I was doing a disservice to the judicial system by staying there. I was prejudiced. I admit it. I'm a moron.
I'm stupid.
But it was rather entertaining. So when you are called for jury duty, don't pass it up. Just accept it, go for the ride, and know that there's going to be some great people watching. I have to also admit that I didn't feel comfortable judging, my fellow man for the simple fact that I could be in the same place as the accused. I mean, not for domestic violence, but any number of other things that if I acted out on some of the insane thoughts that passed through my crazy head, I could easily be sitting in that chair. A wise man told me that we all have the evil of Hitler and the compassion of Gandhi living inside us all. We just have to make sure that we stay connected to the right side. Wow. Is that too heavy for the first episode of 2020? I hope not. As for having all women carry handguns as my solution to gun violence in this country, well, I went to YouTube looking for the video I mentioned, and instead I found a bunch of videos of women pulling guns for ridiculous reasons like getting ketchup instead of jelly at McDonald's. So let's add one more requirement in that women also need to have an IQ of, say, over 87. Also, one last tidbit on the Don't F with Cats documentary. If you are avoiding it because of what you might see done to animals, I can relate to that. That part is really in the first episode only. It's dealt with pretty quickly. I was squeamish as well, but it's mostly about the person, not the part involving animals. So blah, blah, blah. There you go. Thank you for listening, and we'll see you soon.
I'm Batman.